everybody at Beechwood Middle School. It's Mr. Holman, but I'm joined tonight by my favorite colleagues. I'll let them introduce themselves. Go ahead, everybody. We'll start with Kelly, I guess, since you're on top.
Hi, Mrs. Medvey here.
Hi, Mrs. Colbago.
Hi, Mrs. Vitek.
Hi guys, Mr. Ristow.
And Miss Hazelton and Miss Kareem were going to join us, but neither were able to make it tonight. So we're going to give you these video directions for your final project. We're going to call it your 7th grade reflection, which will ultimately become your legacy project, we're going to call it. So this project is broken down. Mr. Ristow is going to go to the next screen. We're breaking it down in 2 weeks. This is the first week. All the directions for what you need to do are contained in this slideshow. We'll each speak about our individual slides. But we want you to kind of look back and reflect on the 7th grade year, what you learned in each class, and to use the slide to kind of take us to the things that you found most interesting, or to add the imagery of work you're proud of, to kind of get a feel for what did you do this year. There's going to be 5 things you really are going to do this week. You've got your 4 content classes. You're also going to have a foreign language, and we have 1 remote learning digital form you will fill out. That's going to be questions that all the teachers put in, and we're giving you a chance to kind of tell us about remote learning, what you liked, what you didn't like, what we may have to change if we ever have to do this again. So this project is going to kind of have you go 1 class at a time. So this is the only work you will have in social studies. So at a very minimum, you're going to have 20 minutes a day to just work on your slides. I know some other teachers have assigned when they broke down their class that you were to work on a particular classroom slide, but you would have at minimum 20 minutes to do a slide 1 day this week during social studies time. Ms. Medvey might speak to that. I think some of her classes is going to be permitted for time on this as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, and I think Ms. Cabago as well. Her microphone's not working great tonight, but that's correct.
That's also correct.
All right, so now you really have about an hour a day. You can guarantee to work on 1 slide a day. So I guess we will point it out at the end here. When you get completed with this slideshow, you're going to embed it like you've done every week we've been online in social studies. You're going to make a new blog post, and you're going to embed this slideshow. Ms. Love and myself will go through that on Monday morning next week, and we will share a Google Doc with links to everyone's blog post and whether it was completed or not with all the core content teachers. So every teacher will get a copy and be able to access your slideshow off the blog page you've already built. So let's take a look, I guess, at the first thing. The remote learning form, probably going to take you about 10 to 15 minutes to fill out, max. That will be a link there. Just click it and you can go and do that. For social studies, we've got 5 questions here. There might be a slight change to these, but ultimately, I really would like you to think about, what are the highlights of the year for you? What did you like? What was your favorite project? I would like links and images so that I can click and go see the things that you're most proud of. If you had to show a 5th grader and you were going to say the coolest thing we did in this class, what would you show them? I did talk a little bit about were you Hadoken this year? Has your perspective changed on things we've learned throughout the year? So I'm asking you a few broad open-ended questions as well as trying to get you to link to some of your favorite work for the year.
So for science class, this is the same slide, whether it's Mrs. Colbago or myself. We just have 4 questions on here. And a lot of like what Mr. Holman just said, we're looking for you to really reflect on your learning and not just always specific to science content, but just even as a student yourself, some things that you might have noticed yourself growing or improving on throughout the year within our class. So when you look at our 4 questions, sometimes in parentheses after the questions, it's going to kind of remind you of that it can be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be about a science topic for some of our questions, because we're looking at just kind of your overall growth as a student, not just in science. But then, of course, to give us some of the specific things that you remember about what you learned, like Mr. Holman said as well, if you can go ahead and put in links or things to some of your Google Docs or that you might have done this year that were some of your favorite things that you did, or some of the things that you were most proud of, that would also be where you would put this in. If you need more room than this, okay? So like if you're going through and answering these questions, and maybe you want to delete these questions because you'll notice the questions are underneath in the notes section for every single class too. So maybe you want to delete all of the questions off the slide and just kind of create the slide however you feel best organizes it. Go ahead and do that. And if you need to add slides, feel free to add slides too. Okay, that's all right. That's fine to go through as you're going and doing this to make sure that you get everything in that you want us to see.
Mr. Ristow, if you could do a favor there, actually exit out of the slideshow for a second.
Oh, they can't see them.
Yeah, because they can't see that. So if you exit out, so underneath there's a notes section. Can you pull that and drag it up and down so they can see, they can expand that area? So the same questions that are on the slideshow, as he was pointing out, are in the notes. So that way you can delete all the text on the slideshow and just start building. You can control that and move it up and down. That way you always have the questions, even if you want to delete. And I really am glad you pointed out, you might use 5 slides for social studies. That's fine. Just build them and add them in, or you might use 1. That's up to you.
Okay. So since Mrs. Hazelton and Mrs. Kareem is not here, just really quick here about your math slide, kind of the same format for them too. Okay, so they have 5 questions and they're going through. You'll notice some of the questions start to sound familiar from the other classes. But really make sure that as you go to each slide, especially if you're doing these on separate days, that you really engross yourself in that slide. So really think about that class and that particular subject, about what it is that was your favorite, what are some of the things that have made you proud, certain things that you really liked, enjoyed, areas that you've improved, or things that you think that you could improve going forward. And so here's, again, 5 questions for math. Moving on to ELA.
All right, I'm going to talk about ELA, but this slide is for Mrs. Vitek and myself. So we are looking for you to reflect on the books that we've read this year, the discussions that we've had, the writing assignments, and really think about, similar to science and math, what did you enjoy most? What are you most proud of? Where did you improve? And then just your favorite memories from the class in general. And again, you see in parentheses, this can be anything. It doesn't just have to be academic. We're really looking for you to reflect and spend some time elaborating on each of these questions, because this is something for you to look back on as you get older and remember, what did you do in 7th grade and what did you read, and how did you grow as a learner in language arts. So spend some time answering complete sentences and elaborate like we've been working on all year.
So for foreign language, everything that has already been explained holds true. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to think about your particular class. You're going to answer the questions you've been given. The only special note for foreign language is that you only have to fill out the slide for the language that you take. So if you're only taking Spanish, you will answer the questions on that slide and then just delete the other slides for Chinese to Hebrew, or vice versa. Just do the one that you're taking. Don't worry about the others. Delete the slide as a whole and move on. And as Mr. Holman already said, again, the same holds true. If you need to add more slides, that's fine. You can do that too. Take as much space as you need.
This last slide that's on here is really irrelevant to you at this point. So a week from now, we will post another video direction with part 2 of the project. However, there is a link there you can click on and kind of see where we're going to go if that's something you are interested in. But at this point, you don't need to pay attention to this yet. It's just there if you want to look ahead. There are a lot of options of what you could do next week, so you might want to look at it just to think about where you want to go. Once again, once you've completed up to this last slide, there's nothing to do here. So you literally are just reading these directions. You're going to then put this in your blog post in social studies. The first slide tells you to call it Legacy Project and then to embed your slideshow. So if you do that, that will be all you need to do for this part week, or part 1, the first week. Anything else anybody needs to mention at this point? I will say, it's the only thing I'm doing in my class, so anything in office hours, I should be able to help you with any other class if you have questions. I know that would hold true for Ms. Medby and Mrs. Colbago as well. So, and I'm sure Ms. Vitek and Mr. Ristow, if you have any questions, you can directly ask them, or you can ask me and I will try to get the right answer to you as best I know. Same for Ms. Hazelton and Kareem. Anything else from you guys?
Have fun with this.
Yeah, I hope you have fun with it, but I hope you do, like everybody's trying to get you to think about, take a step back. This has been a weird year. and think about what you learned in class and what it was like to be at home these last 6 weeks. You know, I don't know that any of us will ever experience something like this again, where, you know, there was no real closure for us with you guys in class. So these projects are going to become really important for us to look at you and kind of get our closure on your take of the year and what you took away from 7th grade. Time flies. Next thing you know, you'll be graduating and you'll be on your way somewhere else. So we look forward to looking at these projects. All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.